I did a bourbon trail last night.
You did?
Yeah, bourbon tasting trail.
Delicious. What was your favorite bourbon on the bourbon tasting trail?
Four roses.
Oh, wow. We're talking about going there. We have not done the bourbon trail yet.
I've done some of the actual bourbon trail, but this was vendors setting up with a food pairing, which I did not
Nice.
eat enough of the food pairing.
Listen to you suckling at the corporate teat. What's happening here?
No, this
The
was
buyer on
small.
fire is the buyer in the pocket.
No
I gotta
Ooh.
tell
kidding.
you.
The Big Sell Illuminati, where some of the best in the business discuss what's worked, what's working, and what's failed in selling big sales. Our panel of experts includes Clarity Seeker, a black belt of brands, our snarky marketer, Monique de Maio. CEO to CEO selling is his game. Fortune 500 in his lane. The Lex Luthor of the close, Mark Kennedy. The effective executive, a force on the boards, a buyer on fire, Tiffany Olson. David versus Goliath selling, the prince of process, Sun Tzu of big sales strategy, Tom Searcy. And that's your panel. Now it's time to talk about big sales.
Hey, everybody, it is episode 17. We've got everybody here talking right now about message design and delivery, most importantly about message design and deliveries. How does that integrate into the conversations that we have when we're talking in sales discussions and with clients, all of those pieces. And there's a lot of examples out there in the marketplace when there is dissonance and when there's a correct alignment, and that alignment makes a big difference. You know, it's interesting with people we've got right here. Here, this group sells and redefines brand and helps their clients to redefine brand. Or our buyer on fire does that with their boards and the folks that she works with. And Monique, that's a full-time job, is making that work for her clients. So we've got a lot to cover in this, and I'm going to ask Monique to kind of kick us off and lead us through this. She has a lot to say and does a lot of work with the message and design and delivery, and the rest of us have to live through it. I mean, as salespeople, we have to go. As, as salespeople, we have to work with the marketing people to go
Oh
ahead and get
my
a message
God.
that works. Monique, come on, take us into how this works, because we have to sell with or against what people like you, friends like you, design.
Yeah. So let's begin by what are the three components of success, right? So marketing and sales have got to align. That's number one. Messaging from marketing without having vetted it with sales or without working through sales is a stupid idea. I know marketers that do it all the time. I don't advocate that. Sales and marketing need to align. Second, the brand promises you make have to be deliverable, have to be executable to the customer or to the client. If you make claims, and my favorite claim is the word easy, anything with the word easy, easy to install, easy to use, easy to do business with. Those are all easy things. And half the time, if not more, that's not even close to the truth. So don't make brand claims that you can't deliver upon. That's just disingenuous. It's going to cause you friction. And at the end of the day, no one's going to believe the rest of the stuff that you say that might actually be true. The third, you have to be differentiated. I wrote an entire POV on different is better than better. And I still stand by that. If you sound like your competitors, if you walk and talk like your competitors, and you can just replace logo, insert logo here, and you're making the same claims, you're wasting your time. It's literally lipstick on a farm animal. Don't bother.
We won't say where that lipstick is applied either, will we?
So we're going to start early. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Monique, one, totally agree with everything that you said. One of the things maybe you can elaborate on a little bit more. I've got a certain model that I've been familiar with, but how do you get that alignment between sales and marketing? What have you found to be some of the best practices on actually how to do that?
That's a good one. That's really good. So first, I check that the client is coachable, because if they're resistant, and this is a true story, and I'm getting more and more adamant about it. If they're resistant to engage with the chief revenue officer or with the head of sales or with the person that's going to ultimately deliver the message to the customer, and or will not have us give us access to actual customers, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. So we ask for access to a real client, customer client, depending on if you're B2B or B2C. And we ask to speak to people who have been in the sales carrying, bag carrying role, and we unpack their lives. Like, what does it really look like to sell for this company? How do you actually deliver your message? What are your channels? How do you communicate? What does that look like? What do you use as communications? What's your success rate? Like, we unpack the process that they go through in their day to day. And if we understand that, then we can reverse engineer what we need to do, which would be, how do we approach the competitive analysis? How do we approach the SEO keyword process? All those things are going to depend on what their go-to-market is and what their salespeople go through.
One of the things that I've seen very successfully used is having a sales alliance team that comes together of maybe 6 people, and quarterly they do meet with marketing. So their responsibility as the sales kind of coordinator is to go out and get information on how the sales force likes the tools that marketing's putting together. And they aren't the region managers, they aren't the directors of sales, or the actual salespeople. They usually get elected by their peers. Anyways, I think I took us down a little bit of a rabbit hole.
I think you guys are describing an idyllic world. I think
No,
this is the way it's supposed to work. I know. Listen. I'm in agreement. It's the way it's supposed to work. Typically, with a challenge in the alignment is the lagging pieces. Either marketing is leading with an idea that sales is not catching up to as far as alignment goes, or sales is making claims that marketing. I mean, when you said the word easy, and that happens in marketing, I'm saying, no. Let me tell you, there hasn't been anybody I know who sells that says, listen, I want you to understand this is going to be really difficult.
right, but don't
Salespeople-
use it. Like, don't be disingenuous. Just don't use the word easy in your promise, right? If you're not going to be able to
So I'm gonna-
deliver upon it.
This is salespeople. They don't read marketing materials. They don't read it. So if it says easy or it doesn't say easy, the salesperson is going to make some choices in the conversation. Whether the word is easy or not, the implication is going to be this is attainable with less effort by working with us than it is with you working on your own or working with any of my competitors. So the idea, I'm going to tell you, Tiffany, I think the future is moving towards sales operations and integration of marketing and salespeople and etc. But man, it has been painful to watch happen. Porcupine's kissing, because I will tell you, I mean, salespeople hate marketing people, and marketing people hate salespeople, except now, no, they do. We hate you. No, I mean, honestly, as sales professionals, we hate marketing people. Why? Because they're all in their heads.
Not so much we hate them. We pitted their lack of effectiveness.
That's exactly right. And you know what? I'm going to actually agree with that. I'm going to actually agree with that. You know why I'm going to agree with that?
It's
Because I
true.
live this. So at the enterprise level, it's really hard to get that alignment thing. But at the enterprise level, typically, if we're brought in for a messaging and positioning project, we're dealing with the higher level. So it's up to them to rally the troops and herd the cats or the porcupines or whatever the analogy is. At the mid-market level, we can kind of control the process and mandate that that's part of the process, or it's just not going to be successful, in which case we just, don't want to engage that way. But the lack of I so agree with you, Mark Kennedy. It's so funny. I view myself as a hybrid marketer because I always say I'm a business person first, a marketing person second, and a salesperson third.
Is this like a new gender identity? Is this a new thing?
Yeah, a third, a third, a third. Go figure that one out. Call me back when
Wow.
your doohickey's working, okay? So anyway,
But let's get to an example of what you're talking about, because I think you go ahead, Mark.
the
My
example.
my
The
doohickey's
post
so small.
the people in watching, with all due respect, we are talking about an USB plug that makes our headsets work. So
It's a
we're going to
jobber
go right
product.
back to
It's
the
a Java
Jabra
product.
product is fabulous. Now, can we go back to our regular scheduled program? The perfect poster child for alignment is Apple. And I'll tell you why. Because the brand promise that they make, simplicity, ease, also everything you can experience that brand from an in-store bricks and mortar to an online, to an actual design of the product, the packaging, the branding, everything from their advertising on up and down and sideways is that brand promise.
But that's the issue that I want to say is that that's not selling. That's creating an environment for somebody to buy. Okay, so brand has put out a message and etc. Even at the touch point, all right. What you're not sold, what you're done is you've been given a series of options from which you select, which by the way is fantastic and is well defined by Apple. That is a promise by brand all the way through moment of purchase, highest level of energy done by customer.
I would disagree with that because I think they do sell. You walk in, they have spent years educating their people. So, first of all, I don't think there's anything more painful than for me than having to have any kind of issue, whether it be my computer, my phone, my iPad. I walk in, I feel 10 years younger. So that's part of the brand promise is that you're cool when you have Apple products. But their people do sell. I had to go and get a new phone. I walked out with a lot of other things. And that was because that very knowledgeable, disguised as a knowledge educator, but a salesperson.
You got hoodwinked by the Genius Bar?
Of course, I was there.
This is a great place for the point that you guys are making as far as alignment. Okay, I can disagree with you about how much of it is buying or how much of it is selling, but I will tell you I agree with you, Tiffany, all the way from what it says on the TV or on the internet or whatever in any branding, all the way to my experience buying at the store. There's continuity. I would agree that there's alignment in that. So fair enough.
I have a slightly different take on this. So I think, first off, the divining rod between aligning your brand and your sales is always the focus on your customer's customer. I think that's one of those key business to business sales principles that is timeless. You can't really go wrong. If you're focused on your customer's customer, you have put yourself in his, her, or its shoes. And that's terrific. The second thing I would say is I think that the difference between sales and marketing is the human element. So marketing can be academic and should be long form academic. It can be the idealized version of what you do. Whereas the sales, you're always going to be dealing with people in the moment with very limited amount of time and limited amount of access. And I think that's the difference between sales and marketing. And that's why I think a big piece of the disconnect exists is you're just dealing with people, and it's the old joke about Mike Tyson, right? Everybody's got a plan until they get hit in the face. And then the whole game changes. And because there's somebody opposite you in sales, there's nobody opposite as much in marketing. I think from my experience in both running marketing organizations, building brands from the idealized perspective, as a matter of fact, is I think if you would ask the chief revenue officer for my company and say, how on brand is Mark Kennedy? She would say 25% at best.
I don't know if I agree with that. When you show up to a boardroom, I would bet a lot of money and a bourbon, because you like that, I don't, but that's okay, that you show up like you show up here. You just do you. Are you going to turn into something else?
No, Tom would attest to that. I think if there's one thing I am is it's consistently, I think, authentic, whether my authentic is good or bad. And I think that's different. That's more personal brand than corporate brand. And the reason I say that is that we live in a world where we're aspiring to create a category. But when I have to get a deal done with the chief marketing officer, I'm less interested in creating a category than I am in creating a purchase order. And that's the yin and the yang of marketing, create a category, sales, give me your money. So I think that dynamic exists, and I think it's the people it's the people element that creates that dissonance.
So I want to address this because I think if you go to this issue of the business side of this, so we have the opportunity to work with an awful lot of engineering and construction companies, big things like dams and bridges and stuff like that, or smaller things which are 50,000 square foot buildings or whatever. So they've got these brands that are some of them multi-generational, right? And they said, built based upon, the strength of generations and the blah, 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 and, flawless execution. And so they've got these brands, all right? And then they go into these meetings, all right? And they base upon that as they got in the meeting and it was a qualifier. It was a truth, but it was a qualifier. And then they leveraged that up as far as selling inside of that brand, but not conversant in that brand. They're not speaking to that brand. It's like the brand got them in the room, and now that was kind of that was what you call, Monique, table stakes, right? So the brand was the table stakes. You can't step outside of the box of the brand, fair enough, but you get to play inside of that box pretty much freely inside of a sales. So that's where you can't be inviolate. You can't in any way disparage or differ from the brand.
Well, remember my power of three. I always talk about people can't remember more than three things. This is a true statement. Short, fat, bald, tall, skinny, blonde. I can go on. If service was fast, cheap, and good.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life.
No way to
son.
go through life. There you go. Perfect. Right.
Do the best you can to land your point without interruption.
The point is you should never go, if you're going to go into the room with your brand promise, you have 3 points to make. They're not going to remember anything more than that. Be concise. If you say, you walk in the room and it's, we are a family, we've been in business for 50 years and we built on, solid foundation or whatever the freak it is. What are the 3 points you want them to remember about you? That's it. If you walk out with more than that, it's not going to stick.
I would agree. I think the other very important role of marketing, which I think differs from sales, is really looking at what is kind of the next best thing out there and how do you make sure that you understand that market and can really kind of move the brand or move the product into a different area to be there for the future, which I think, there are companies that are great at that and there are companies that obviously failed miserably. BlackBerry, for example. And this is when Monique that that you had it as an example, which is remember when this first came out and every CEO and CFO and everybody else wanted to have that tool, and now it's like the joke. I don't know of really anyone who still has a BlackBerry unless it's sitting in a museum or in the bottom of their desk drawer. But I think that that's one where they weren't talking to customers. They weren't talking about what that customer wants in the future or what it could be. And I think that that's a role that marketing plays.
There was a recent, I think it might have been Harvard Business Review, or it could have been Inc., one of the two. Somebody had a research study that said, what do CEOs most want out of their CMOs? And it was the ability to look into the future and help the business identify those future trends so that they can model the right product solution sets, et cetera, and have that business not suffer like a BlackBerry or a, Blockbuster or whatever.
That's where the issue of leading versus lagging is. Marketing leading us, declaring out there that this is what the future is going to be, and sales is selling into that future, because typically sales role is to sell the future. So, or is marketing in a position of lagging behind what sales is saying? I see it both ways. There's a company that we work with, and it's got, let's just say for the sake of a name, one of the salespeople's name is Rich. All right. And so, because the organization has a particular brand, this is what we do, this is where we position in the marketplace, this is why we're different than anybody else. And so it says that in the brand. Rich shows up and says, what do you want us to do? Not what's your problem, it's what do you want us to do? Wash cars? Do you want us to go ahead and help you paint a building? Do you want us to change your position on the internet? His desire to ask questions exceeds the brand, and then has to be routed back to the brand. And so this is I think the challenge sometimes around who's leading and who's lagging out there. I think one of the things that's kind of interesting is a lagging circumstance. This goes back a ways. Remember Swiffer came out? Swiffer was so big. They were making all their stuff in China. There was so much demand at the end point that they had to fill up planes in China to bring over enough to stock. And crazy as that sounds, what happens is that all they showed themselves as being easier cleaning. And so BOMA and all sorts of other stuff came up with easier cleaning. What did they miss in the marketplace that other people picked up on? Was sterilization. We get into COVID, you don't go ahead and talk about the fact that you're cleaning, it's cleaning and sterilizing. And so we know the other brands that came in, Purell and others, who wound up licensing their stuff into the cleaning products that are out there. This is a point in which marketing is lagging behind market and market desire, and part where sales is then saying, okay, fine, I've got to promise a future that marketing doesn't see. I find that that's where it's frustrating with marketing. This is where marketing gets shoved into the world of finish my RFP for me, create a pretty deck for me, or whatever. Is because when they're lagging, listen, when they're lagging sales is always trying to say, okay, I need you to do something for me because you haven't put me in a position that I'm going to get anything sold on its own.
It's a really interesting point, because, and it's one that it transcends the simplicity of the question. So I've seen, and I'm wary, because I mean I've been a growth company guy for 25 years. I've worked with smaller companies, have grown them from basically past launch into mid-market scale. And one of the things that you have to watch out for is you have to watch out for doing your innovation at the point of sale. So when you are a company, there's three different models for selling. There's founder-led sales, there's sales-led sales, and then there's product-led sales. And as you mature your business, you try to get eventually to product-led sales, where people are basically buying and you're not selling. But what I see is when you get into the founder-led sale, you have the person that typically either owns the business or runs it, who is making those decisions. And what they're doing is they will always be ahead of their own marketing efforts, because they're doing whatever is required to cover headcount or cover payroll. And therefore they're going to innovate at the point of sale to give the customer what they want, even if it's 1 degree, 2 degrees, or 90 degrees off of core strategy. And that's the interesting thing, I think, about the conversation between sales and marketing, probably for most people who are listening, which is the answer is going to be your sales is always going to be ahead of your marketing, just out of sheer necessity on the revenue side of the business. I've seen it myself, and I've done it myself. And when I do it as a salesperson, I think to myself, this is fine. We're being customer centric. We're being responsive to the market. As a strategist and a CEO, I look at it and say, "How dare you? You're putting your delivery organization under strain. You're basically taking the machine that creates value, and you're introducing chaos into that machine, and you're going to pay for it down the road." I think that's the interesting part of that discussion.
I think the idea of founder-led sales, uh, these are the kinds of things that are really, really hard on, marketing leaders. Someone like Monique who's saying, "Look, you can't go into the meeting and say our approach is to do whatever it is you will pay us to."
It's not scalable, because then you have Kyle go into the room and he has no credibility. And then now Kyle just made a brand promise on the service delivery model that he has no access to. So Kyle and your entire company look like idiots.
Monique, I'm sorry. Finish out your point about that, because this whole thing that you're talking about. We've got a lot of retail examples that I think are very valid, but you're working with founders all the time, and you're trying to get them to not be what Mark just said, which is showing up and saying, "What will it take me to get a purchase order?"
And you know what? The other thing that's really, really hard for these founders and even to some extent, the enterprise guys won't do it either. And I don't understand why. They won't pick a swim lane. They're just like, no, you don't understand. Our solutions are for everyone. I'm like, and that means they're for no one. They're not for everyone. You need to pick a swim lane. I don't care what the swim lane is, but let's do some analysis. Who is your perfect client, and what is your perfect industry? What is the perfect level? Who are you selling to? What are they like? What are they like? They can't be in all industries. Come on now, dude. And they're like, "Oh, but you don't understand." I'm like, "Yeah, I do understand, but you don't understand. It's not going to work."
I feel like we're doing you're doing a novel reading and you're playing all the voices. It's great.
I'd just like to declare that I have unhealthy thoughts, dreams at night about Progressive Insurance as a client. It's an unhealthy obsession. I dream about having them as a client.
Okay, so let's play that out. So, because I was going to talk about industry context and landscape and all this stuff. Why them? And even if we bleeped out the brand, maybe we shouldn't bleep out the brand.
Somebody out there might have a connection.
That's right. That's right.
Post it
Exactly.
post it in the comments.
We'll tag them. We'll tag them
We're
in
looking
the
for a
show notes.
sponsor. Yeah. So
That's right.
So wait, so why them, and what's the angle? What do we got here?
So for the way my company is changing marketing in terms of how helping empower brands to directly connect with their audiences, they are the hyper example of spending to interrupt. Like they advertise and it's a continuous interruption. I mean, they've created so many soap opera like characters, Flow, the I mean they've done there's like 4 or 5 different campaigns they've done. They've just created these ideas to keep Progressive Insurance on your mind. But that's not what happens at the point of decision when people are actually going through the process of figuring out what to buy and how do I bundle and what is a bundle and what are the limits of coverage, all these sort of things. And the way that we market, I also know that they're the one of the top 5 spenders in paid search. And so those brands that have high search volumes that completely are bought into the fact that paid search works, high conversion values with products that lend themselves to research, those are like center of the bullseye, and they are at the top of the mountain of all of those advertisers. We could do so much. Like it would be hard for me. Like the problem I have with them is I have to charge them so much, like what they spend to get a customer. I could get them cut literally 10 cents on the dollar, but they won't listen. I can't get them to listen. And that's the thing that's driving me. That whole industry is, as Tom knows, it's almost the property and casualty, the D2C property casualty business is they have their heads so far up their asses in terms of we invented advertising, we know everything about customer engagement, we know everything about our personas, and but it seems like they're addicted to spending money to get customers. It's the worst.
Is there a possibility that your brand is not understood by their brand?
100%. There's no doubt about it. We're completely invisible.
I think it goes to risk too, and we talked about that in one of our other previous podcasts, which is the risk of doing something like that. The risk of totally changing the way that they go to market is probably too large for that.
No, I disagree. So, and the reason I disagree is this is a bolt-on growth channel that they currently can't get to. It's something they would love to get to, but their marketing group has been so trained and so completely brainwashed that you can put $1 in and get $1.25 back out. And you just keep doing that over and over and over and over and over. So when you do something where you could put $1 in and get $7 back out, but it's going to take you 6 or 12 months to get it, that's where they get stuck.
I want to bounce off of what you're saying. I want to take this to Monique. Monique, a lot of times we're looking at that what's the way that I get in, the arrow to get me in, the arrowhead that gets me into the customer and then allows me to extend. I mean, we see Flo on cars and then Flo's on a motorcycle and she's in a boat and I don't know, she's holding a cat, whatever it is. She's trying to go ahead and get you to she's trying to get you to insure everything. The issue I'm saying is that a lot of the work that you do in the marketing world turns into the sales world in which there is a chain, right? There's a point of entry, all right? And then there's a chain of ongoing upsells, cross sells, expansions, and etc. Is there a way that messaging is better set so that I can get in and expand? Because otherwise I'm trying to sell everything and that's too much.
Yeah. So you have to pick one pain point that you're solving for that you can stand for. That's your DNA. It's your true north. Like, what is it that you, so as an example, just more of a consumer example, because some of the brands that we all work with, people on this, listening to this podcast might not know, but think about Warby Parker. At the time that Warby Parker came on the scene, they created a new engagement model. They allowed you to take 5 pairs of glasses, ship them to your house for free, try them on, do whatever the hell you wanted for a couple of days, and then send them back at no charge. That was a game changer for that industry. And in addition to the fact that Luxottica owns LensCrafters and Pearle Vision, they own everything but Warby Parker, basically. So the idea that they were able to disrupt that industry that was their promise. Convenience. You don't leave your house. You can sit on you can sit on the couch all night, try your glasses on. It's frictionless purchase, frictionless. No risk. You can ask your mom, your girlfriend, your boyfriend. But this is before people were like sending selfies. Do you like these glasses on me? These are Warby Parkers. Why? Because it's easy. So you like these? So the point is, they disrupted the industry. So that was one. Dollar Shave Club, same thing. Like, what's the problem?
Wait a minute. Let's stick with what you just said. So the point of entry is first purchase, first try for out of the 5 glasses. Second opportunity potentially is that they come in with, say, the sunglasses version.
Eyeglass exams at $95, not $350.
Eyeglass exams or contact lenses. We all know that so I go back to that. What's the pointy end of the spear to get in? Your answer is ship them 5 glasses. Now their cost per acquisition for the lenses at the end are really, really low.
Look at Dollar Shave Club, same deal, same deal. What's your problem? People hate dull blades.
That's not my problem. I hate going to the drugstore.
Dollar Shave Club solves both your problems.
But I think the view of how do you disrupt, if you aren't one of the big companies, how do you disrupt getting in at a different way to get to that customer? And those that figure that out are incredible. I mean, think of Amazon figuring out really kind of a different way to get out and reach the consumer. And if you compare that with Sears, who had the Amazon model, but wasn't able to execute on that, wasn't able to actually make that happen, they're no longer. And look at Amazon. And I think it's, if you can be that company to be the first one out there, then you're going to take the market, and you'll have that market for a long time.
I forget if it's Harvard or McKinsey, one of the two, either the Harvard Business School or the McKinsey Consultancy has a model. We could look it up, but it's called a horizon planning model, and it's a bigger idea than sales and brand misalignment. But basically, the idea is you have a Horizon 1 business, which is the core business that you're currently in, that you should execute that business as efficiently as you can. And then they have Horizon 2, which is an adjacent. It's an adjacency that's 1 degree removed from your current business that you need to be thinking about next. And then there's Horizon 3, which is the thing that you should do to try to put yourself out of business. Because the business world is littered with, why didn't Blockbuster become Netflix? Why didn't Sears and Roebuck become Walmart, or why didn't Sears and Roebuck become Amazon? And I mean, it goes on and on and on and on and on, right? Everybody who's had a category get disrupted by a disruptive technology or a disruptive product, it changes everything. So the idea is that Horizon 3 business. You put basically 80% of your revenue or 80% of your investment into Horizon 1 efficiency, 10% or 15% into Horizon 2, and maybe 5% into Horizon 3. And you'll still get your ass kicked by somebody else because you're going to do so much to protect Horizon 1, but it's an idea that at least gives you a chance to hedge your bets against future incumbents that are going to disrupt they're going to steal your cheese.
It's 3 Horizons of Growth, Mark. I just looked it up. It's McKinsey. And it's Horizon 1, core business that provides most of the current revenue. Horizon 2, emerging opportunities. And Horizon 3, long-term opportunities, potentially experimental.
I mean, less important for sales, more important for CEOs. But
it's a very interesting idea when you go out for really big sales. And the reason that is that big sales are also typically transformational to your company, meaning that you are a step out in front of what marketing says, because it's like marketing promise plus. When you're at the big sale level, there is a variation on what the standard claim is to the business. So you have to go beyond, because when you get to big sales, marketing is a message to the masses. All right. Sales is a message to the single, to that individual company that you're in front of. So you got to stand on what you said to the masses, but you have to solve for what is the individual company's particular problem. There's a dynamic tension there. The bigger the sale, the more you're going to be out in front. You just can't violate where you came from. I go back to, you got to take the person that you went to the dance with, you got to stay with them, but I think about the companies that are out there that we've had the opportunity to land really, really big deals with, and I'm talking about folks like UPS and Disney and construction companies people would not know the names of, but that are enormous construction companies. Every one of those big deals was a claim plus. Now, that plus may be a modification of what we're doing right now, a customization as it has to do with either geography, international currency, whatever it is. But as salespeople for big sales, marketing promise plus. But does that then create a new, and I know where Monique's going, yeah, that creates a new marketing message. It creates the next level of opportunity to say, this is who we are, this is what we stand for, including the idea that customization is what we stand for. So I cut you off, Monique. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, you didn't at all. I think, listen, it's a fine dance. I think you have to work in tandem, but I think, the moment where we as salespeople, and I say we because I've been that too, make promises that you don't know that you can back up back at the ranch, that's when you get into trouble. So the dance is that marketing can't promise anything that sales isn't comfortable delivering as a message, and sales shouldn't say anything that will make operations uncomfortable delivering. So I think, to Tiffany's point earlier, it's this alignment dance that we have to do. We do QBRs as business people. Well, the sales and marketing people need to be more vigilant and more, prescriptive about getting together and checking that alignment is happening. She's right. If you don't do that, you're going to end up creating these siloed ivory tower type of thinking and deliverables that don't serve anyone. I mean, I look at stuff all day long that is just garbage. And I'm like, how did people even create this stuff? And I know the salespeople aren't using it because I wouldn't use it as a salesperson. It's terrible. So you have to get that fine balance, that dance identified in person with a dialogue. And it has to be substantiated with what's going on in the marketplace today. What are the competitors doing? What's the landscape? What's the future like? You have to balance. Are we dealing with today and the next 18 months? Or are we dealing with today and the next 5 years? Because sometimes you have to make a decision about that.
I want to ask Tiffany about this. When you guys, when you've developed the branding messaging or you've worked through that, the branding messaging for the size of companies you've worked with, publicly traded and et cetera, that messaging can't turn on a dime. It has to have some legs to it. Whereas founders branding is, based upon, much, much shorter time cycles. In your background, it's the much longer. How do you get to a brand that your people then can sell inside of that longer conversation?
You bring up an excellent point, which is speed in large organizations, because you have to be able to have that speed, but it takes a long time. You have to really sell down to all parts of the organization, do some change management, and move as fast as possible. And if there's a burning platform, it's much easier to do because people all feel that pressure. But if it's like the Horizon 3, where it's really far out there and you want to bring people in, that sometimes you actually have to like cleave that off of the normal organization just so that it's allowed to move and go freely. You really have to have a CEO and that senior leadership team who allows that type of speed to happen. But what you can't do then is to, whiplash the organization. So this month we're going this way. Now next month we're going to go this way. Now next month we're going this way. So you really have to make sure you've done the diligence on picking the lane that you're going to move as fast as you can down for a while. You can tweak, but if you're constantly moving, and I was in an organization actually as a salesperson, and every month it was like the flavor of the month, and it's just very disruptive. So it's really a kind of fine dance that you have to do. You have to have people that'll push that speed.
Well, let's go ahead and let's wrap up. And I guess I'd like to give everybody kind of some closing pieces of this because I think there's a lot been discussed. But what are your 2 or 3 core takeaways about this idea of alignment between messaging and messaging design as it translates over to sales? Mark, from the look on your face, I can just see you're inspired and you want to say something.
I said it earlier. I think it's the For business to business, it's the focus on your customer's customer. The alignment that you need to have between your sales and your marketing promises.
Monique?
Yeah. So again, I think the sales and marketing alignment has to happen, and it should happen early in the process before you decide to either brand or rebrand or do any of that. The brand promises you make have to be deliverable to, again, your customer's customer, whoever is the end user of those products, services, or solutions. And then last but not least, it has to be differentiated. You have to pick a lane or two, not a million. Be clear about who you serve, why they should care. And that's really the secret sauce. If you can't, in a very quick manner, appreciate why this company is for you, then they haven't done a good job of either differentiating, selling, marketing, or all three.
Tiffany?
Yeah, so I would say absolutely agree. I think on the execution side, having sales and marketing, joint teams, joint MBOs, job switching, making sure that you've got really good flow through is a way that you really build that muscle in an organization.
I would offer the following ideas as it relates to sales and marketing. Number one is that I believe there needs to be measurement that is valid to both groups. Oftentimes, we separate out the measurements so that here we are, the salespeople get commissioned for this, marketing is not held accountable for that, or marketing gets the market share of the value and compensation. So that's the first part, is the metrics that are integrated. We know that what gets rewarded gets repeated. Second thing is that there still has to be an area where sales is in front of the customer. Even though marketing is interviewing the customer, sales is in front of the customer and brings back the information to marketing to say, and to the company, how do we shape what is ever changing inside of our customers market and what their needs are. That transition, that informational transfer has to happen in that way. And the third thing is that there will be, if you want to have some integrated marketing messages and sales messages, then there has to be tool support. Yes, marketing, you're going to have to help out with the deck, the website, the whatever. Otherwise, salespeople are going to go say whatever they want to say. And on salespeople's side, there's no sense for marketing to go make a bunch of tools and information and slide decks and promises and videos and etc. and you never use them. So the tool use and tool creation has to be shared. And in doing that, you can get sales and marketing to align to go get better results. All right. Thanks, everybody, for a great session, great podcast. Have a great week. We'll talk to everybody soon.
Thanks for listening to the Big Sell Illuminati podcast. If you like this episode, give us a thumbs up and let us know in the comments. Also, be sure to subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. Until our next episode, best wishes on your big sales.